For the folks at home, you just missed my sort of introduction to headphones. I'll have to redo it for you, so look for another video. I just turned on the recording, everyone. So just look for a short video, a 10-minute video later this evening, and I'll get it up to you. Great, thanks, bye. Okay, so that being said, let's go ahead and jump into Premiere. So, Premiere has been taking a long time to start up on my machine. I'm not 100% sure why. I think I just have a lot of things going on. Let me quit some stuff. Okay, so we have my stupid project. So when you bring up My Stupid Project, it has the same sort of interface that we left off with yesterday when we were doing credits. So you can remember it kind of opened up this extra graphics tab. It brought up the sort of text window here and the captions window. If you want to restore this to kind of the way it was before, which, yeah, I think that would be great, go to this editing tab, which is sort of the tab to select the editing workspace, and go to reset to saved layout. And that's just going to reset the sort of layout to that editing space. Personally, well, I'm sure you probably have maybe your own feelings about it, but the sort of changing of the workspace as you work, I'm not a huge fan of that. So, okay. So, in this video, let me go ahead and zoom all the way out so we can kind of get a bird's eye view. I've got a few text objects, sort of this multi-track sequence right here. Then it's cats, 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 and then we have some birds, and then a sort of text credit. I'm going to really focus sort of what we're doing today on the sort of like finished area of or not finished, but the sort of more worked on area of the video. And we'll just sort of work with this section over here for illustrating sound. And so one of the things that we might want to do if we're transitioning into working with sound, there's a couple of things. One thing is it would probably be useful to go ahead and kind of minimize these tracks, the video tracks in particular, because we're not going to be sort of working on them. So I'm just going in here and kind of like making them all small-ish. So we can see them and we can work with them if we still need to do that, but we're not going to be sort of like having them take up all this real estate on the screen, and especially on the timeline. And probably I could maybe make them even a little bit smaller, because all we really need as far as information to kind of like lay down the audio is we need information about, when something starts and when it stops, right? And beyond that, we can just use the moving of the playhead to kind of direct where our sound goes. So, okay, so this is basically what we're working with here. And then lastly, I want to give myself as much real estate as I can for the audio tracks, which are going to be down here. And if we need more audio or video tracks, we can certainly add those in. Okay, so now I need to basically go out and get some audio. So I'm going to quickly scrub through my video and just kind of come up with some sort of symbolic, notations of what's in here. So we've got wind blowing through the trees, a kind of pastoral scene, a burning hot sun, driving over the mall with a helicopter, and then cats, cats, cats. Okay, I got it. So I'm going to reach out to two websites, and these websites are websites that you can find on the Canvas page right here. I also put a link if you're interested into where you can purchase some of these the new version of these headphones that I talked about just a second ago. So they're right here. You can read reviews and all that stuff. So let me just hit the back button here. Close that. So there are two links where you can find sound clips. One is some sound clips that I have provided for you in the Google Drive. And these are, funny story, a long time ago, I used to work in advertising, and we would sometimes make actual commercials. And so these were a bunch of, hold yourself back here, this is shocking, CDs with Foley sound effects that you would purchase. And so these are the actual sort of sound effects that you would use in film and television. So yeah, there's a bunch of them. There's hundreds of them. So you can search through the Google Drive interface. I know I definitely wanted a helicopter sound. So looks like there's a couple. Helicopter takeoff. Hang on just one second. Always with the sad dog. Okay, here we go. I'm going to turn the audio up quite a bit. To be honest, this sounds more like a lawnmower than it does like a helicopter. I might want to look at the other ones. I was hoping for something really choppery, where you can kind of just hear that hunk, 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 So that's not quite what I'm looking for. Let's go ahead and check out a few more of these. All right. So that's a maybe. I'll go ahead and probably download that one. So that one was down in the 40s. I'm pretty sure there are several hundred sounds in this folder. So I could also probably find just, scrolling around just a few more sounds that I might be interested in. I think this heartbeat sound is kind of nice. Ooh, pigs. Grating carrots. What's that like? I'm going to download it and find out later. So I got a couple of sounds there, and then the other option for you is you can come to this website called Freesound, which is a sort of, online community like YouTube or, full of user-created content. And it's run actually by a university in the UK. So they ask you to, log in to download sounds. I'm pretty sure that because of their complete lack of corporate affiliation, that it's pretty safe. So anyway, you just get your login going, and we could maybe look for some sounds. So it's a sort of word search interface. And what you get is you get this sort of interface that you can browse, and then you can you can actually... That's horrifying. I would like that one. So let's, I'm going to go ahead and just click on the sort of full version of the sound. And the reason that I'm sort of going to the full page is that I want to look at a couple of things. So all of the sound clips in the Google Drive are sort of professionally produced, and they're all stereo. They're all the same bit rate. They're all the same quality. And they're pretty high quality, okay? So, because they're coming from like a, paid for repository, copyrighted repository. Excuse me, it was not copyrighted at all, ever. The sounds that you get on Freesound, because they're user contributed, they're going to have a lot of different quality levels, and they're going to have a lot of different formats. So my sort of suggestion for sound is that you look for, this one is totally fine. This one is actually probably one of the higher quality files that you might see. So one of the things that you want to look for is that it has a bit rate of at least probably 32 kilobytes per second. The other thing that you might want to just be aware of is whether it's mono or stereo. And of course, I think we all kind of intuitively understand that when we listen to, particularly with headphones, you can sometimes really hear the stereo separation of your speakers. So have you ever, seen a movie where you can hear something like back there, and then you turn your head and you're like, oh my God, it's over there. That type of tonal separation from left channel to right channel is called panning, and it's something that you can only do with stereo sound. 99% of the sound that you're exposed to on your devices and just in life is stereo. You could actually make the argument that everything you hear through your ears has been made stereo by your ears. But that's kind of like philosophical, maybe. So mono sound, there's nothing wrong with mono sound. It has its place. If you are creating a mix and you have let's say I'm creating a mix of this space, and I have like the left-right channel, and pretty much my voice is taking up most of the left-right channel. But maybe someone comes in from that door and it's like, hey, Meg, sorry I'm late to class. And that recording could be mono, and then I could add it into the recording like only on the left channel. That would be a good reason to have mono sound, because it doesn't need to be two channels, right? It's not filling up the left and the right. So if you find mono sound and you want to use it, I guess my advice is go ahead and use it. Just know that you're only going to hear it in one ear. You can convert mono to stereo, and then it basically just takes up both ears equally. So that's another option. Okay. We're going to go ahead and download this, and I'm going to look at a couple more files just to kind of show you some more options. So this one looks, let's see. Okay, so this is a much more typical sound file, and I'm going to point this out to you. So this is probably what you would actually see. Just going to change the camera really quickly so I can draw something on the board. Okay, so pretty much what you want to see in the file format type is an AIFF or a wave. These are number one. And number two is MP3, MP4, I'll just put etc. Okay, so AIFF and WAV are actually the same format. WAV is just sort of PC language. It's PCified. And AIFF is the Mac version of the WAV file. So what a WAV file is it's an uncompressed, high-quality audio file. A wave is like the TIFF of audio files, okay? So it's the highest quality, it's got the most information. It also has the largest file size. Not sometimes a big deal for people, sometimes not. And the AIFF is pretty much exactly the same thing. It's just Mac's way of wanting to own everything. So MP3 and MP4, you can find high-quality versions of MP3s and MP4s. There's nothing wrong with them. But just like a JPEG has compression artifacts and has that sort of has the taint of data compression, so does the MP3 and the MP4. You can actually find audio purists on the internet that claim that they can actually hear the compression algorithm in an MP3 file. Personally, I think that's ridiculous, but people do make those claims. Kind of hilarious. So can you use MP3s and MP4s? Yeah, sure. I would just know that you're not kind of getting the best quality file. So here, this one is a WAV file. It looks like it's 13 seconds. This sample rate is also pretty good. I probably would not go lower than 32,000 hertz here. But again, I mean, you all have ears, right? And if you listen to the file and it sounds okay to you, and you're layering 5 other files on top of it, it's just like with the Photoshop thing, right? Like, does it matter if I have a really high quality file if I'm gonna layer 5 other things on top of it? I don't know, does it matter to you? I mean, it kind of just really matters like how it looks in the end. So I'm not setting any rules, as far as like what sort of quality sound you have to have. I'm just trying to give you some kind of a reference for what might be considered, a high quality sound file, what might be considered a lower quality sound file. And as pointed out before, this one's in stereo. So I'm going to go ahead and download this one. Download. Did I do it? Okay, so it looks like I've got a bunch of stuff in my downloads folder at this point. So I'm going to go to Show in Finder. And I just want to make sure my kittens and cats are in now. Listen to that. Wow, this might be actually the scariest video I've ever made, It's pretty terrifying. Okay, so yeah, I've got like 6 or 7 files here, that's plenty. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a new file, a new folder rather, and I'm just going to call it sound. The reason that I'm making a folder of all my sound files is for one reason and one reason only. I'm just trying to stay organized, That's a good thing to do in general. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up the project folder for my Premiere project, which is somewhere in here. So find that. It should be in here. And then video. And so here's my stupid project. Remember, when we created my stupid project, it was in this folder. And so right along there with that folder that says source videos, I'm just going to drop the sound in there. And I'm going to use this folder for sort of future and present sound. So I'm going to come back into my Premiere project at this point and go ahead and import all that sound folder. And by having it in a folder, it makes it a little bit easier. I can actually just click on it and import the folder rather than having to click each file. It looks like one of the files it didn't like, it was probably the OGG file, which I'm totally fine with. OGG is kind of it's an OGG Vorbis is what it's called, and it's kind of an somewhat uncommon file format. So most of the rest of these are coming in as waves or M4As or MP4s, and that's all fine. So let's go ahead and maybe start with the bagpipes. So I'm going to drag it onto the timeline. Let me go ahead. Don't worry, I'll keep it brief. Okay. So a couple of things. I definitely want the bagpipes to end at this point, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it, and I can treat the sound. This is always like one of my easiest Premiere demo sort of days, because we're basically treating the sound exactly like the way we treat the video, with very little difference. So I can cut it, I can use the ripple edit tool, I can do almost anything in terms of editing the sound that I would have done with a video. So here I can then restore chunks of it with the ripple edit tool. If I make this track a little more accessible, you can see I have a keyframe sort of manipulator here, and that can be used to control the volume. So some things that I sort of do as like a general practice thing, and this just comes from years of experience dealing with other people's crappy audio recordings. The first thing that I do when I get an audio recording is I create a ramp in, and that's basically just a way of ensuring that if there's any sort of scratches or pops at the beginning of the recording, that they're not heard in my mix. So it's just basically just making this little tiny ramp, you know, when the file starts. And I usually do the same thing when the file ends, because if you cut a file, a sound file like this, did you hear that like it sounds kind of painful? Let's just make a tiny little ramp out. And it doesn't have to be like, you know, special or anything. Whoops. Stop. Let me go back. So it just makes it slightly less abrupt. And those really like fast changes can sort of be like one of the sort of like this might sound a little bit mean, but that's one of the hallmarks of bad editing, is when you have those sort of like really abrupt changes that don't sort of seem intentional, right? So that would be just like kind of a general practice thing that I would do on pretty much every audio file that I receive. In the case of these bagpipes, you can see this is actually from the sort of Google Drive store. You can zoom in and see that there are no sort of, you know, pops. So it's not strictly necessary in this case. It's kind of already been ramped. I mean, you can see how it starts nice and gradually. That's the best case scenario, right? So a lot of the sounds that we get from Freesound, like probably the Kitty Symphony here. I'll just put that maybe down here for now. You may or may not find these tracks have a little bit more noise at the beginning of the recording and at the end. So let's see quickly. Looks like we're at maximum magnification right now. So this looks like it might actually be a good candidate for that ramp approach, because it doesn't sort of start off from the absolute bottom. And we just want to kind of like guide it to a point where it's making that, starting that sound. So let's go ahead and like here. So if I wanted to mute this track with the bagpipes, by the way, I just click this M, and then that track is muted, and then I can, oh my God. Okay. Yeah, it's a little harsh. So I am going to go ahead and like ramp it up a little bit here. I also kind of didn't really want the cats to start until we got to the cats in the video. So I'm just going to drag them over here. I could have sworn that I was going to think about sort of layering the cats, because we have, 6 cats maybe in here, and we have like 1,000 cats in this thing. So if I wanted to sort of layer this over multiple tracks, we can start to maybe think about what that sounds like. Probably a clearer way to illustrate that, I think the cats over cats is going to sound pretty much like a lot of cats, and then possibly a lot more cats. Let's go ahead and have this heartbeat sort of layer on top of the cats. So the heartbeat is different enough sounding that I think you should be able to hear it. Notice, by the way, that this track is muted. So right now we're really just previewing the heartbeat track. So I'll pull the playhead back and just so you can hear the heartbeat. We could lower the volume of this track. Hey, here's some grating carrots. I kind of just want to see what that sounds like. Oh. Maybe not. The grated carrots just aren't working for me. I think I also have, let me do a real quick search on my own hard drive. Because I was just thinking it would be really cool if I could have like an ocean wave sort of synchronized with the cats. And I'm pretty sure. Well, I guess they're not going to give it to me. I do know for a fact that it's in this sound clip thing, so probably a more direct route. Lapping waves. Awesome. So yeah, that I'll just go ahead and download this really quickly and get it into the project. So, all right, there it is. And this one is a quite long recording, so I actually think I want to put this on the bottom track here, and then be able to kind of reposition it later. If you find yourself needing to make more tracks, and this would go for the video or audio tracks, you can go up to the sequence And you can select the add tracks function right here. And then it just tells you to type in how many tracks you want. And so, like I think I said this probably the first time we were working with Premiere, the upper boundary for my sort of advice on working with Premiere is probably 10 tracks. If you start to do more than 10 tracks, you kind of lose the ability to navigate through the file. Although you could probably get away with more tracks if it was just maybe one thing that was stacking up. Theoretically, though, you can have as many as you want. It's sort of like asking the question, how many tabs can you have open in Chrome at one time? Anybody have an answer for that? It's a lot. I actually think this sounds a little bit scarier because it's like they're off in the distance coming to get us. So anyway, you can just like have fun layering sound, and the only thing that I wanted to change in this sort of like, I feel like this is maybe pretty close to a catpocalypse. But I did want to go ahead and change the layering here because I just don't like it. So I wanted to just double-click this clip, which is the burning sun from NASA. And I'm going to just choose a different blending mode, like I think maybe multiply. Nah, don't like that either. Color burn, nope. Yeah, I just kind of wanted it to retain more of its sunniness. So this silence here is actually like probably next to the kittens meowing. This gap here is probably the most distressing thing in the file. So silence is probably one of your most powerful tools when you're doing sound editing and composing. The absence of sound is actually in some ways more important than the sound itself, right? So if you want this to be like a sort of abrupt, shift to silence, then that's fine. Personally, I would probably like make this a little bit more gradual and probably shift the kittens back so that the silence was less. So maybe put the kittens starting here. And that would just be less sort of ridiculous. So somebody told me once that like over a second of silence is a lot. When you're sort of thinking about something that you expect to be generating sound and video. So let's pretend that we are done with our video. It is the video of our dreams. We've got titles. We've got all sorts of other stuff. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and just bring this in a bit with the Ripple Edit tool and then take my title and stick it on the end here. Bink. Come on. Computer is being a little strange today. Okay, so basically just kind of a compressed the timeline to the area that we've been working on. And if I put the playhead at the end, you can see we have about a 2-minute and a 2-minute video here. So that 2 minutes sounds familiar, haha. So at this point, we are going to go ahead and just make our video done. So obviously, if you're doing this at home, you might want to take a little more time to kind of tweak everything out, make sure that it's, exactly where you want it before you export it. But for now, we're just going to go to Export Media. Dun, dun. And from here, you want to double check a couple of things. You want to make sure that for format, it says H.264. H.264. You also want to double check the height and width, which should be visible in this window. If it's not, you can just click the video tab. Just check it and make sure that it's what you think it should be. What we're asking you to make is a 1920 by 1080 video, an HD video. So that should be the case. If this is not right, I would consider maybe like sending me or the TAs a screenshot and just asking if we can help you. Because if this is not 1920 by 1080, that means that something might have gone wrong, like in the process of making your video. So, yeah, seek help. Basically, that's it. So you can click export, and it will export your video. So as you can probably guess, if you need to go, that's fine. When you click export, guess what? It goes onto your hard drive. If you want a slightly more detailed explanation, I can provide that for you. This, where you click output name, if you click that, that's where you direct it to a folder on your hard drive or the cloud or whatever. So yeah, that's it. You save it, you're done. Ta-da! All right. So I will be seeing you this coming Tuesday. And that will be our week before spring break. See you all. Have a great weekend.